But let us look at other things that your candidate has promised. You've talked about restructuring. Yeah. You've said you're going to restructure Nigeria. It seems that, you know, your candidate has been talking about that, especially in the southern part of Nigeria, where it seems this clamor is very loud. Your candidate promised that in 2015 before coming into office, and it was seen that none of that happened. Why did none of that promise, or that part of the promise, why was it not fulfilled?
Well, I think you should note that the issue of restructuring is clearly a constitutional issue. And you cannot lay blames on the executive for non-implementation of policies, perhaps.
Did we
Particularly if the law has not been passed.
Yeah.
You cannot come and restructure the country simply because you are the president.
My apologies, IGP. I have to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Yes.
The question is, I mean, we all know that restructuring is a constitutional issue.
Right.
I don't think that the parties know. I mean, even I believe your candidate knows that it is a constitutional issue right now.
Of course.
I don't think anybody would have promised that without realizing that, you know, certain parts of the Constitution will have to change.
Yes.
Why would you promise something and then later on say it's a constitutional issue, or no, it is the National Assembly that should do it?
So are you expecting...
Why would the party promise something that it doesn't desire to push through?
The party is not running away from that commitment to restructure the country. You recall the vice president, who is a professor in law, has always been saying it. APC will restructure. And you also recall Kaduna State Governor, His Excellency Malam Nasiru El-Rufai, was assigned to head a committee that looked into the most effective way to implement this or to go about this restructuring. So there is no way you can... A restructuring does not come overnight. And you need to... I think we need to wait and see how this report or the report of this committee will be implemented.
IGP,
it's not like the party is sleeping over it.
It would seem that in that respect, we have not heard... You have referred to the vice president, but very rarely have we heard the president talk about his plans for restructuring. If there's anything, I think I remember a particular speech he gave sometime in October, one of either May 29th speech or an October 1 speech. I can't quite remember clearly. But he was saying something about restructuring being under the purview of the National Assembly. And he was saying that that is where he's ended the conversation on restructuring. Yes, we talked about the vice president, but it doesn't seem that the presidential candidate of your party is pushing that, you know, restructuring be one of his main agenda.
I hope you are not expecting a situation where the executive will go and put his hands where it cannot achieve. Remember, if the party says we accept that the country will be restructured and goes on to institute a committee, and the committee forwards its report, if the president assigns the vice president, for example, to lead a team that will review the report, I don't see anything wrong about that. And if the president also says that this is a constitutional matter, he's only reiterating what is existing. Remember, I'm a lawyer anyway. So there's no way you can talk about restructuring of any country without issues of law coming in. That you will be responsible for this, or social matters that used to be under the purview of the federal government will now go to the states and so on. There must be an agreement. And mind you, it is not going to even end at the National Assembly. State assemblies will also have to be involved. So it's not like the APC leadership or the president is backing down on the issue of restructuring.
But that's what some Nigerians say he's done. He's already backed down. When you say he's not within, you don't want the executive to put their hands where the National Assembly is concerned, you know, and you're looking
You remember for many months now, the opposition has been in the control of the leadership of the National Assembly. So why have they failed to put pressure?
When did the opposition become in control of the National Assembly?
Close to 5 to 6 months.
Well, your candidate is promising
and
that.
It makes
are you a lawyer? Let me first of all
I'm not a lawyer.
You're not a lawyer.
No, I'm not a lawyer.
Let's get that straight. How does your candidate intend? Because we've heard this promise now, and it would seem that there is nothing been done in the last 4 years on the matter of restructuring apart from talk. What is your candidate promising that will be different, especially now that we all know that it's a constitutional matter and perhaps will need to be done through the National Assembly?
Yes. I hope, let me state one thing clearly. I hope you know that my candidate has already adopted the Constitutional Conference report on restructuring. Now, restructuring he has reviewed it from different perspectives. He has viewed it from the position of devolution of powers. He has viewed it from the position of regionalism. He has viewed it from the position of fiscal federalism. He has looked at it from a number of factors that needs to be restructured. Now, the concept of restructuring has been clearly spelled out in his action plan.
Let us talk about fiscal federalism.
Yeah.
I mean, you said you reviewed it from all of that,
Yeah.
all of those perspectives.
Yeah.
What is it promising concerning fiscal federalism?
Well, he has said he doesn't mind that states should control resources from there and only pay some royalties also to the federal government. So if you allow
That's
people,
what your candidate has promised.
Yes.
The states will be in control of their own resources and should pay.
He said he does not mind.
He does not mind.
Yes, he does not mind that. Now that is not a clear-cut problem. But it has to be.
Are you qualifying it again? Are you afraid to say that that's what he said?
No, I'm not afraid. What I'm trying to explain is that the candidate is saying that it is a matter that will be, agreed upon. It is something he said within these first 6 months he will start addressing. And so it is something that you have to address with the people because you cannot make a promise.
Isn't that sweet talk meant to address, maybe grievances or get votes from a certain part of the country?
Well,
because you're saying he does not mind. What does he does not mind mean? Are you trying to qualify the promise?
Well, I'm only quoting him. I don't want to state something completely different from what he said. Now, if you want to report something as a reporter, would you put your own opinion or would you just recall somebody's exact words?
You're a spokesperson.
So
I believe you speak for him.
So, yes, if I'm speaking for him, I should speak exactly what he said. I shouldn't speak from my own perspective. And it is not very difficult for us to understand that these are things that are practical. They are practicable. They are issues. Now, what does Nigeria want? What does, for instance, the South you are talking about want? What, for instance, does the South want in terms of restructuring? What does the Southwest want in terms of restructuring? What does the Southeast want in terms of restructuring? Now, these are areas of convergence. Now, you cannot say because there are different areas of convergence. For instance, the South has always been clamoring for littoral states, or the Southwest is looking at restructuring from the point of view of regionalism. So every segment of the society is looking at it from a perspective.
Is it promising that we'll have to hold another meeting before we?
No. He has adopted the conference, the constitutional conference by Jonathan has already addressed these issues. Now it is merely for a review and adoption. Once it is reviewed and adopted...
Does he intend to pass it through the National Assembly?
Of course.
How does he hope that he will get through the National Assembly if members are not willing to vote on some of the things that he wants or he has promised the people? Yeah,
the National Assembly are made up of human beings. They are not ghosts. You have to... The normal things that you do is you persuade, you lobby to get what you want.
Can you confirm this to us? Has your candidate promised to rule if he's elected for only one term?
I cannot confirm that because I have never heard him say that anywhere.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know that your candidate is quoted to have said this, and I'm going to say it was This Day newspaper, he said this. He said, I have said this before on my own initiative. I believe in it. If I'm elected as the president in 2019, I give an undertaking that I will do only one term. Having said that, let me remind Nigerians that Buhari also gave such an undertaking in 2011, but is not living up to it today. My own case will be different. I'm prepared to sign an undertaking to do only one term. That's what your candidate is quoted to have said.
Yes, perhaps he has said those things, but the fact that he has said them, there are issues that are coming, that are emerging. Now, in the context of a country,
okay.
Like...
I have to go on break now. You said there are issues that are emerging. I'll give you time to explain that when we come back from this break. What issues are emerging on the promise that, his candidate has said that they're going to do only one term if they're elected into office? Is it changing, foot now? We don't know. In a moment, please stay with us.